This episode is brought to you by KPMG. Making an impact is how KPMG helps make the difference. KPMG applies advanced tools and strategic thinking to convert data into actionable knowledge and deliver value by improving performance through transformation, modernizing processes with technology, harnessing the power of data, navigating complex M&A transactions, and enhancing trust among stakeholders. Go to kpmg.us/advisory to learn more. KPMG. Make the difference.
Ford was built on the belief that the world doesn't get to decide what you're capable of. You do. So ask yourself, can you or can't you? Can you load up a Ford F-150 and build your dream with sweat and steel? Can you chase thrills and conquer curves in a Mustang? Can you take a Bronco to where the map ends and adventure begins? Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Ready, set, Ford.
The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Roger Stone Show. Joining me now is Joel Gilbert. Joel Gilbert is a documentary film producer. He is an investigative journalist. He's also a musician, performing artist, and a true mensch. He is known for his many documentary films in politics, including Dreams from My Real Father, The Art of the Insult, hysterical film about Donald Trump, and his famous film on Michelle Obama. Of all of his films, my favorite is, of course, Banished, the untold story of Danny Williams, who was the abandoned African-American son of William Jefferson Clinton. But Joel has really distinguished himself in terms of his research into New York Attorney General Letitia James. I consider Sam Antar, who joined us earlier on the Roger Stone Show, and Joel Gilbert kind of the Batman and Robin of this drama. Their coverage of Letitia James has been on the money. Joel often writes for the Gateway Pundit, and he's had a number of extraordinarily incisive pieces there. One that I saw very recently that interested me the most showed that not only did New York Attorney General Letitia James, the highest law enforcement officer in the state of New York, fraudulently obtain a mortgage to obtain a home in Virginia, but according to Joel Gilbert, she's actually harboring a wanted fugitive at that property. Joel, welcome to the Roger Stone Show. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, great to be here, Roger. Well, it didn't take too much research. It started with Letitia, of course. She responded to Sam Antar, revealing that she had purchased this home by falsely claiming it would be her primary residence in order to qualify for a lower residential loan. Letitia responded by coming publicly and saying, I bought that house with my niece because I wanted to provide a home for her children, wanting sympathy, essentially, that she's trying to help kids. Well, I simply Googled it and found out the two kids are actually adult criminal felons. One of the adults, named Nika Monique Thompson, has a rap sheet including convictions for 20 years for abusing a child, possession of burglary tools, third-degree burglary, assault and battery, you name it, resisting arrest. And I found out that she's actually wanted in the state of North Carolina. She has an outstanding warrant for absconding. You can go right to the website for Winston-Salem, North Carolina, Forsyth County. Nika Monique Thompson is wanted on a warrant for absconding her parole. Now, it was Letitia that said she bought the house for her niece's children, and if you look up Nika Monique Thompson, she lives there. So this is very serious. It wasn't enough for Letitia to commit one crime. She made the house a whole crime scene because she knows her niece's daughter is wanted. She has a very close relationship with her, and there is very serious penalties, including a federal and state crime for harboring a fugitive. So there's just no excuse. Letitia, we've got her crime after crime. I'm happy that Trump appointed a new prosecutor in Virginia because they have to look into this. Letitia just cannot be above the law anymore.
Excellent point. Sam Antar very effectively on today's show refuted this new fake news media claim that there is no evidence of mortgage fraud, or there's insufficient evidence of mortgage fraud. You recently uncovered the fact that she, who insists to everybody that no one is above the law, is actually violating the New York City rent stabilization laws, even as we speak. But before we get into that, let's talk about the mortgage situation.
Yeah, look, I chronicled on Gateway Pundit that since March that Letitia James took out a series of mortgages on her apartment building. She purchased a 4-story apartment building with 5 units in Brooklyn in 2001, and ever since then she's taken out a series of mortgages where she falsely claims it's only 4 units. And the reason she does that is because if you have 4 or less units, you qualify for a residential mortgage rate with very low closing costs and lower interest rates. If you have 5 or more units, it's a commercial loan with very high closing costs. She even, I revealed recently on Gateway Pundit, in 2021, she got a credit line mortgage, which is a regular mortgage, for $200,000, claiming the building only had 1 unit. So Letitia has made the case in Donald Trump's lawsuit against him that any mistake whatsoever is a grave crime and has to be prosecuted to protect the integrity of the system. So Letitia has just made every single loan a fraudulent mortgage, including with the U.S. government in 2011. She took out a loan. She had a 10% adjustable rate. On the back of the American taxpayer, she got a 2.7% government loan to get rid of her 10% loan by falsely claiming that she had a financial hardship, even though she was making $14,000 a month, and by falsely claiming she had 4 units. The loan wasn't even available if you had over 4 units. So in researching that, I've been writing about it, and every time I take a look at Letitia's mortgages, and they're all online. New York is an open record state. Every time I think I'm done with her mortgages, I say, let me take a look at it again. And every time I look at it, I find another crime. So the latest crime is that I found out she should have been registered with rent stabilization ever since she bought the building. Rent stabilization is a law in New York, and what it does is it prevents landlords from raising the rent too high too quickly. It prevents eviction abuses, and you're only allowed to raise your rent by 3% per year at the most. So Letitia should have been registered all these years, and the way I found that out was in 1969, New York City passed a law that any building built before 1974 and having more than 5 units was subject to rent stabilization. So the last certificate of occupancy, which is the only controlling authority for unit count, for Letitia's building was in 1961, prior to the passage of this law in 1969. In 1961, her building had an official designation of 7 units. It was broken up into 7 apartments. So in 1969, her building was permanently in the rent stabilization program. There's a law that says you cannot simply redo the number of units and get out of the program. You're in it forever. So Letitia has been someone who has constantly said that she wants to protect homeowner rights. She's actually sued companies to defend the rent stabilization laws in New York, but it turns out she herself has been violating them. So you can't look at anything she's done in the real estate business without finding a crime. And I don't know how this can't be prosecuted. Now, in the state of New York, if you violate the rent stabilization laws like Letitia did, it actually goes to the Office of the New York State Attorney General for prosecution. So Letitia herself would have to recuse herself because she is subject to this law, and she's tried to avoid it for 24 years now.
It's really quite extraordinary. As I think it was Sam Antar said, this is not a one-time typographical error. I mean, she's tried to minimize her culpability here. She's hired Abby Lowell, who could be the worst lawyer in America. I mean, Abby Lowell represented my friend Joe Bruno, who was the New York Senate Majority Leader. He was charged in an absurd, politically motivated case in which the U.S. Justice Department claimed that he had gotten a cut rate price on a broken down racehorse, which was true, but they couldn't prove that the man who'd given him the cut rate price had received anything in return from it, certainly no governmental contract or service. But because he went to a highly politicized court and in front of a epically corrupt judge, he was convicted on all counts, represented by Abby Lowell. The U.S. Supreme Court threw out Joe Bruno's conviction, but then, oddly enough, the U.S. attorney re-indicted him when he went to trial a second time. The second time, he fired Abby Lowell. He retained a local criminal defense attorney in the Albany area, and he was acquitted on all counts. I also had my own recent run-in with Abby Lowell, who wrote me a letter during his representation of Hunter Biden, telling me, I guess because I had been a critic of Hunter Biden on this show and also on my website, stonezone.com, that he told me that I should preserve all my records regarding Hunter Biden's laptop. Well, that would be exactly zero, other than maybe the links to stories in the New York Post or Breitbart News where I first learned about Hunter Biden's laptop. I guess this was meant to silence me as a critic of Hunter Biden. So I think that she's in very deep trouble if that's her lawyer. She seems to think that with the help of ABC, NBC, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, Bloomberg, one of the worst, all of these journalistic outlets that are in fact progenitors of propaganda and Democrat Party talking points, that she can evade justice in this case. I don't think it's going to happen. I know Lindsay Halligan, the woman who the president appointed late yesterday to serve, I guess, as the interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. It's very clear to me that Eric Siebert, who says he resigned, was fired. He was fired because he refused to follow the evidence. This was a simple question of following the evidence. Joe, you have a major piece coming out, which is a prosecution memo that outlines the crimes of Letitia James. This will be public tomorrow, as I understand it. I've taken a look at the draft you sent me. This is a comprehensive roadmap for anybody out there who believes today that there's no evidence whatsoever regarding any wrongdoing by Letitia James. You have the specific act and the specific law that she's violated in this incredible crime spree that seems to go back at least 23 years.
Well, it's really 40 years.
Go ahead.
Yeah, look, I put together this thing. It's called a prosecution memorandum. You'll see it on the Gateway Pundit tomorrow. Prosecution memorandum, it's an internal legal document that prosecutors prepare that summarizes the facts and the law to decide if they're going to bring criminal charges. So I've created this as a mock-up as an incentive for prosecutors because, as you probably know, I'm a little concerned about Pam Bondi because of my research into the Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman case. It was Pam Bondi that did a woke prosecution. She was the Attorney General of the state of Florida, and she prosecuted George Zimmerman even though he clearly engaged in an act of self-defense. He was exonerated by the police, and it was Pam Bondi that caved in to the mob scene on the street and prosecuted Zimmerman, and as a result, Black Lives Matter was founded, and she didn't really have a backbone in that case, so I've always been concerned about her, and I did put together this memo, and in this memo, I go through step by step all the evidence of everything that Letitia James has done. She has even a RICO charge that I think could be made because she has a consistent pattern of misrepresentation of fraud and fraud spanning 4 decades. She has always exploited every mortgage classification to get better interest rates. She's exploited government programs. She pretended to marry her father to get lower interest rates, all to get personal benefit and undermine the financial system. So it's been repeated for 40 years, including the Virginia residence, the Citizens Bank loan in 2021. I think there's continuity and intent for illicit financial gain. So we've got all these individual crimes that I've laid out. You're going to see it tomorrow in the Gateway Pundit. We've got violations of federal law, false statements to financial institutions, bank fraud, mail-in wire fraud, RICO, federal laws against harboring a fugitive. We've got state laws for residential mortgage fraud she violated. We've got a scheme to defraud, pattern and continuity. It's all there. So I think any prosecutor could have taken my first article about Letitia James back in March and probably been able to charge her. But we've got now a complete investigation, and I've created this document. I think any prosecutor can follow this, and they've got to stop this crime spree of Letitia James that she's been engaging in for so long.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, then we'll be back with more of Joel Gilbert right here on The Roger Stone Show.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump.
They went after a guy named Roger Stone who's sitting in the office. And I'll say this in front of Roger, he's no baby. And right now he's cleaner than anybody in this place. No, they treated him very unfairly.
All of these presidents relied on one man to secure their seat in the Oval Office. That man is Roger Stone.
Roger Stone.
This is the Roger Stone Show, presented by Colonial Metals Group. Now, here's Roger Stone.
And we're back. We're talking to Joel Gilbert, documentary filmmaker and investigative journalist, writing recently for the Gateway Pundit. Joel, over the last couple of days, in the wake of the horrific, brutal political assassination of my friend Charlie Kirk, I saw Barack Obama put out a statement in which he opposed censorship, which I found interesting because our mutual friend Roseanne Barr immediately responded by saying, remember when you and your wife told Bob Iger that I should be knocked off of network television? I thought it was the perfect comment. You've just finished and released a documentary film on Roseanne Barr, the great Roseanne Barr. Tell us about it and tell folks where they can get it.
Okay, so first of all, you can see the movie trailer and link up to watch the movie on live stream, like Amazon Prime, Apple TV, YouTube movies. Go to RoseanneIsAmerica.com. RoseanneIsAmerica.com. You can find the movie everywhere. Now, I did think a lot about this because Charlie Kirk being shot by a leftist trying to silence him was not much different from what they did to Roseanne Barr. She was kind of the first victim of cancel culture back in 2018, the biggest victim. She was a Trump supporter in real life and a Trump supporter on TV. And she was also a lifelong civil rights activist. She always promoted African Americans and causes, and she put out a very funny tweet about Valerie Jarrett and the Iran deal, and Obama's wife and Obama and Bob Iger jumped on it and said, "Oh, did you know that Valerie Jarrett was 10% black?" And Roseanne said, "Well, no, I thought she was Iranian. She was born in Iran. She's white." And they said, "Too bad, we're going to cancel you." So that was not much different from shooting Charlie Kirk. It's eliminating a conservative voice because they can't stand dialogue. Leftists don't want to have any dialogue. It really was the Obama years where political opposition turned into something that Democrats and leftists called hate. Anytime people disagree with Obama, they said, "Oh, that's because of racism. You must be bigoted if you don't want Obamacare." So that's kind of where it started. So the left looked at Roseanne Barr and said, "Oh, if you support Trump, that's hate." That's exactly what this idiot did in shooting Charlie Kirk. He said he didn't want the hate. So go back and look at Roseanne's movie. You can see her tell her whole life story, how she got into comedy. It's a hilarious movie. She's still very, very funny. And you learn about the cancel culture and how she persevered. So go to RoseanneIsAmerica.com, watch the trailer, and it'll guide you where to watch the movie online, RoseanneIsAmerica.com.
Thanks for listening to The Roger Stone Show. You can hear The Roger Stone Show Sunday afternoons at 3. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Whether it's in Drive, Dropbox, Slack, or that folder called Ugh, Dropbox Dash finds it fast. Smart Search. Built for messy humans. Learn more at Dropbox.com/dash.